The views and opinions expressed on this station do not reflect the owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 25th day of November, 2020. Welcome to the Daily Hour, brought to you by Medical House and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman, along with Carla Zool. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. If you haven't already, share the link, start a watch party, retweet it. Just get the conversation out there to your network. Another good one for you today as we welcome Dr. Phyllis Curtis-Tweed back to discuss the upcoming Reading Literacy Initiative. The daily play is a say it, don't sing it, so Carla is guessing the name of a song from the lyrics given. This is going to be an interesting one. Notice I did not say easy, Carla.
It never is, but I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh my.
You know I like to sing.
Right. Okay, singing, that's what that was. A lot to discuss this morning. Where do you want to start? I mean, we have a cluster of cases, right? We have the premier telling you all stay the hell home if you're sick. We have the labor dispute. And we have Trevor Lindsay at the press conference yesterday calling the premier out about being at a certain establishment on the weekend. And it was quite hilarious if you saw it. But a lot to discuss. Where should we start? What do you think?
I think we should start with the union stuff.
Oh, boy. Put it this way. That's all we're going to be talking about because that's just something special. So the union stuff, and you were a former union member in Bermuda, correct?
Yeah, I wasn't just a union member. I was a shop steward. I was a member of the union from 18 to 42.
1842?
From 18, age 18, you're so stupid, to 42. And for the last 2 or 3 of those years, I was a shop steward.
Okay. So obviously you might have a biased perspective as you see this, but as it relates to for those who don't know, what we're talking about is Hamilton dock workers have, I guess, been on somewhat of a strike, I guess. And so there are people who have things on the docks and they haven't been moving. And so according to the Royal Gazette, the minister, who's Jason Hayward, he stated that mediation efforts to end the 7-day slowdown on the docks failed. So slowdowns, not strikes, sorry. And so the last few days, they failed to break an impasse between stevedore services and the Bermuda Industrial Union. And Mr. Hayward, therefore, referred the dispute to the Labor Disputes Tribunal. This is interesting. The government, according to Mr. Hayward, will continue to work with the parties involved to resolve the dispute. He said he's hopeful they'll find a resolution. Now, Carla, do you want to say anything on that before
I know there are many union workers who are so angry about that, especially since it comes from the immediate past president of the BPSU.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. He's got a job to do, but I'm sure there are a lot of angry union members today thinking like, okay, you were just sitting here with us. Mm-hmm. You were helping to lead this as such. And now you're going to make this side, you're going to take this type of decision. So, but I have to refer to yesterday's conversation. It comes with the territory.
Well, I mean, he was BPSU leader. I could be wrong, but based on my history, BPSU and BIU operate a bit different in terms of how they operate. No,
Yeah, well, it's different divisions as such, like because one's white collar, one's blue collar,
correct.
but industrial togetherness is industrial togetherness. So just because I'm a doctor doesn't mean that I have hearts, doesn't mean that your plights any different because you're a doctor who deals with lungs, just for example. So I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, he's a minister. I'm sure he knew he'd have to take tough decisions like this. But overall, I fully support industrial action. I
So
do.
let's read his tweets. Apparently, he has Twitter now, right? So according to the minister's Twitter, not sure if you all can see it, 11 hours ago, the ministry included the labor relations section has been engaged in mediation efforts over the last few days pertaining to the industrial dispute between Stevedore Services Limited and the Bermuda Industrial Union. It now appears that parties remain at an impasse with no further progress being made. Therefore, in accordance with Section 11, as read with Section 4 of the Labor Disputes Act 1992, I have referred the said dispute for settlement to the Labor Disputes Tribunal. Once referred to the tribunal in accordance with Section 19 of the Labor Disputes Act 1992, any lockout, strike, or regular industrial action short of a strike is unlawful. Any person who takes part in, incites, or in any ways encourages, persuades, or influences any person to take part in a strike that is unlawful under the section is guilty of an offense. It says 4 or 5, but I don't see a 5 or 5. What do you make of this? I want to get some feedback from the audience as well. But what do you make of? Because it seems almost like Jason here was like, "This is a new day. You're not going to play around with me. This is a new day. This is get back to work." And I mean it.
Well, his vibe of "you're not going to play with me," that's consistent, regardless of what side of the fence is sitting on. I did find it
No, I
fascinating.
mean you're not going to play with me in terms of the workers. That's not regardless of what side. Regardless, I think when you say not going to play with me, when he was on the other side, he said that to the OBA. He's not saying that to the PLP. He's saying it to the very workers that he created that facade of a people's campaign with other union leaders and Reverend Tweed about. And that facade's gone because I just want to say this for you, jump in. I highly doubt, I'm not sure, but based on history and the individuals involved, I highly doubt that Jason Hayward would have taken this same position if the OBA were government. Let's just keep it real. Go ahead, Carla. Sorry.
So no, wait. We can't leave it there. Go a little deeper.
The People's Campaign. It's. I mean, there's not depth that needs to be said. If the OBA was still in power, the government, I highly doubt if he were not the Minister of Labor, he would take the same position. I believe he would be on the side of the workers. That's just based on history. Based on history.
What I found, I read it with quite interest, the magnitude of the cost, like the ships not being able to sail because they have the partial stocks and stuff. And I was like, okay, that's part of trade unionism. Discomfort comes with it. But it just made me realize, like, wow, what a powerful stand. And I know people would be like, no, well, we need our stuff. But if based on what it's been said is the source of it, if that was which is the union members going to a meeting and management deeming it inappropriate, if that's what they are, that's their right as such on the workplace, then where does the repercussion come in for the employer as such? So I know some people are like, oh, we need our ... but why should they have to settle for unfair work practices if that's the case?
If that's the case. What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the duck dispute? Elizabeth says, when you start seeing store shelves bare, it's a problem. The situation needs to be rectified ASAP. You know, I said yesterday, I let's go to my Twitter, because there was a local business that basically kind of, I'm trying to think of, they used the term union workers, right? And I was like, I'm not quite sure here's what the statement was, just to give you an idea. Quote, at the moment, dock workers are still on strike and the boats have not been unloaded in order to return to the U.S. and collect our next lot of containers, which were due to arrive Thursday, in brackets, which in fact was our first week of pre-orders. We do not have extra trees coming in and would hope that the union workers return to work soon to provide Bermuda with all the shipments companies are waiting for. I have a big problem with the term union workers. So my response to that is not quite sure referring to them as union workers is helpful. They are employees who are having a dispute with their employer, which is impacting others. They happen to be unionized. I know I'm not the best when it comes to using the right words and terms, but I understand that language is important. And so
Yep.
let's not, I think our anger is so much controlled by our wants and our personality. And although, I mean, I've been inconvenient, folks, I was fighting conscription. I was an adult being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. I couldn't have a second job because you all were okay with a law. So I know about inconvenience. But being inconvenienced because you can't get a damn Christmas tree or like you can't have certain material things, yes, there are things that people need. I don't know the situation with the docks. I don't know what it is. What I'm simply saying is that the intent and purpose of union action is nothing comfortable about it. It's not supposed to be. It's not.
And that's what I was going to say before that one part of your sentence you said was the most powerful about language. And I was going to say, yeah, it depends on what filter the person is looking through it. Because if they're looking through it from a position of I and me and my, then of course they're union workers. They're not even looking at the whole picture. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I saw the kerfuffle about Christmas trees initially, like a few days ago. And I was like, well, what is it? I thought it was a bug initially. But again, it's like, you weren't about Christmas trees. Really? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
No, I think just to speak back to Renee Sharon Simmons, it's not even about unionized employees. These people are human beings first, then they're employees, and then they're union members. What the way the term was used, it was almost like to degrade the workers because they were unionized. That's the problem right there. So it's not about saying just say unionized employees. That's not my point. If there is nothing wrong being a unionized employee, there's nothing wrong with taking action. It's not. If you feel like something is wrong, then these things, you must stand up. Look, you folks, I know all about standing up. And when you stand up for things, and I just want to bring a sense of realism to this. Let me tell you the kind of things you lose when you stand up for stuff. And I'm sure you all love to quote the second week or third Monday of January. You love to quote Dr. King. But some of you aren't willing to give up the little things he could care less about. For others to fight and take a stand against what they deem injustice. It may mean not having a Christmas tree and other materials. That's minimal.
And I was going to say,
when you consider people lost jobs, when you consider people lost the ability to fund lives to simply feed their children and their families. I'm not here. I will never, ever let any narrative make me believe. And again, I don't know what's going on. The employer could be totally right. But I will never let the narrative be sold to me that workers are wrong because I'm uncomfortable that I don't have my wants. Yes, there may be medications that people need. There may be important stuff.
But hold on, though. They haven't prevented any non-essential items from being unloaded. So I think that's something that needs to be said. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, would people feel the same way if it was February? And the reason I say February, because it's not Christmas, right? It's not a holiday. Mm-hmm. So is it simply because I want these Christmas trees, or is it that you want it to be resolved? Because if there wasn't an occasion coming up, if it wasn't Cut Match or 24th of May, would it make a difference?
Well, I think that goes to what our good friend Terry Too Cool says. Consumerism has consumed us. So I think that kind of goes along the line of what the question you're asking. Raquel Wainwright says, have we heard the employee? To be honest, we haven't really heard the employees' side. We've just been told a narrative based on the medium. But what I want to encourage people to do, and that's what we do on this show, is we encourage you to critically think beyond what you're being sold and told. Come on. We can do better. Leslie Swan says, yes, the intent was to make it look as though being a union member is a problem. Using the term and unionized employees is a form of microaggression, something that many of us do unknowingly. Agree, and that's my point. That's it, Charles. Like, come on. I refuse. They're not our enemy. They're not our enemy. Sean Smith, Carla.
The view from the top of the mountain is different from the bottom, meaning he has more information to consider and the impact at the top as a minister versus from the bottom when your view is a little narrower when he was a union leader.
The worker is fighting for their jobs. And to be honest, when some people are fighting for their jobs, they're fighting for their lives, their livelihood. Carla, you ready for the news?
Yes, sir.
Didn't I tell you that's all we'll touch? Don't forget, hang on, after the news, we'll have Dr. Phyllis Curtis-Tweed, a very important conversation. Very important conversation. Honestly, reading is essential for us to understand what they don't want us to know. So if you don't need to be a parent or an educator to listen in, understand, comprehend, and take this information to use to improve our community, one episode, book, or read at a time.
Bermuda's COVID-19 rate increased yet again as the Ministry of Health received 808 test results on November 23rd, with 4 being positive. One of the new cases is classified as imported, a resident who arrived from Atlanta on November 24th. Wait, that doesn't make sense, who arrived earlier, who tested positive on their arrival test, having not had a pretest. The additional 3 cases were classified as local transmission. Bermuda now has 239 total confirmed positive cases. There are 25 active cases who are all under public health monitoring, and none are hospitalized or in critical care. A total of 205 have recovered, and a total deceased remains at 9. The average age of all of the confirmed positive cases is 53 years old. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, has revealed she was pregnant with her second child but suffered a miscarriage in July. In an opinion piece for the New York Times, the Duchess wrote that she felt a sharp cramp while changing the diaper of her first child, Archie, whom she had with her husband, Prince Harry, in 2019. I dropped to the floor, she says, with him in my arms, humming a lullaby to keep us both calm. The cheerful tune, a stark contrast to my sense that something was not right. She continued, I knew as I clutched my firstborn child that I was losing my second. The former actress and member of Britain's royal family described the difficulty of losing her second child and reflected on the hardships of the past year in the deeply personal piece. I lay in a hospital bed holding my husband's hand. I felt the clamminess of his palm and kissed his knuckles, wet from both our tears. Staring at the cold white walls, my eyes glazed over. I tried to imagine how we'd heal, she wrote. Jamal, have you started buying us Christmas gifts yet?
Ain't we just talk about consumer? I'm going with that this year. We're not going with consumerism this year, all right? Thank you. So no, I ain't getting you no gift.
Why does that not surprise me? Shopping Reminder Day falls roughly a month before Christmas. And as such, it's the important reminder, sorry, you tell me no, so you razzled me. And as such, it's the perfect reminder to go ahead and get started on all of your holiday shopping. Yep, that's right. There's a day to tell you to shop so that you don't go and procrastinate on all of your holiday shopping right up until Christmas Eve. Observe Shopping Reminder Day is quite simple, and observing Shopping Reminder Day is quite simple and straightforward. Make a nice list of what you want and what gifts you need to buy for people. And once you've bought them, you might be able to sit at home and relax with a nice mug just for you, Jamal, of dairy-free eggnog in a few weeks when everyone else is running around and shopping. Turning to weather with sunny breaks, the high in Bermuda is expected to reach 71, while Miami, Florida will see a high of 80, and there will be a high of 55 in Brighton, UK. On a programming note, don't forget to tune in to the full100radio.com tonight for Nighttime Jams, featuring some of your favorite romantic classics. That's your Daily Hour news break.
All righty. Yeah, taking the year off. I want to say that on the Christmas note, we're actually going to have our financial contributor, Teresa Stewart, on tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about the top 10 or 5 things that people can do instead of the regular sales for Black Friday. So it should be an interesting conversation with her. We know she always has some great advice. We're going to take a quick break. Carla, I know I routed it, broke her heart that she's not getting a Christmas gift this year. She could take the year off. She got a Christmas gift. We have the Daily Hour. That's her Christmas gift this year. See, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with Dr. Phyllis Curtis-Tweed again. Important conversation. If you know someone who's an educator, a parent, just a mentor, share it with them. Tell them to tune in. We're talking about reading and literacy. Coming back after this.
Good day, Medical House Doris speaking. Can I help you?
Medical House is Bermuda's leading one-stop shop for healthcare. Bermuda's top doctors, dentists, care homes, and the hospital choose Medical House for a wide range of products.
Anything that we ask them to do, they come through.
These same professional quality products are available to you for home healthcare.
If we can use them, we definitely do so.
Medical House is best known for its uniforms and footwear. It also has restaurant uniforms that stand up to even the toughest shifts. If you're on your feet all day, Medical House has comfortable and stylish shoes that are also durable and easy to clean. Everyone needs some help cleaning up, and Medical House has got it. Leading-edge janitorial, facility, and maintenance supplies are all here. Medical House is on Millreach Lane in Pembroke, where there's private parking right outside the door. Call or visit Medical House today.
Recently, we've been re-examining the way we eat sweets as we live under the shadow of diabetes, a bona fide epidemic in Bermuda and abroad. All the makers of alternative sweeteners are striving to create that safety margin, and this month, we're featuring a heavyweight contender, Lakanto monk fruit sweetener, fighting the battle of the glycemic index. Originating in southern China, the unique monk fruit imparts sweetness without sucrose or fructose, resulting in the healthiest sugar alternative. Try Lakanto sugar-free golden, liquid, and classic monk fruit sweetener. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
All right, welcome back to the big show. Carla Zool right there, Jamal Hartman right here. It's the Daily Hour. Thanks again to Medical House and Lindo's, also Crimson Multimedia over there on Channel 82, where you can also view this show live on television, along with Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Don't forget, tomorrow we have Teresa Stewart. We're going to be talking about some things we can do with our Black Friday savings. And on Friday, we will be speaking with Karen Hodgkins from Magnum Force Gym. That's the name, right? Magnum Force Gym, about the how the pandemic has impacted the industry of gyms. All right. So without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We have Dr. Phyllis Curtis-Tweed. Oh, look, you know what we say. Once you come, you know, you're a guest. The second time around, your family. So do we say cousin, auntie, sister?
I just hope she bought cookies.
Cookies. Hello, doctor. Welcome back to the show. How
Good morning. Good morning. You can use whichever one you like, as long as it's not like an old one.
Okay, it's cousin. It's cousin.
No aunties.
Thank you for doing it. Honestly, I always tell people, I know it's early in Bermuda, and some people ain't had their coffee or tea, whatever they take this early. But thanks for joining us to have another important conversation, I must say. And to get right to it, Bermuda College is hosting a reading literacy initiative to improve students' reading proficiency. Why is a workshop like this necessary, especially right now?
Oh my goodness, that is a terrific question. It is necessary, particularly for Bermuda, because we have an issue around reading literacy. We need to make sure that our young people are reading on grade level or above grade level, because reading is foundational to academic success. You know, they say that you learn to read and then you read to learn. So it's just really important. We were sharing some statistics the other day. I understand that in the primary school setting, around 60% of students are reading 2 or more grade levels below grade level, which is extremely troubling. And I also have heard that the statistic that around 50% of students in at least one middle school are reading below grade level. And this is a serious issue because if students don't learn to read early, they continue to have gaps in learning, which may be very difficult to correct or to get them caught up. So we're hosting this initiative. It is a mini conference because we want to bring attention to this very important issue. And I've heard some people refer to this as a national crisis, and I agree. So that we can try to turn this around. Education is something that Bermuda over the years has actually done very well. And we've hit an area now of crisis, and we need to make some changes so that we can provide the kind of support and teaching that our children need to help them to become successful. The conference that we're having on Saturday, it's Saturday, November 28th from 10 to 1 p.m. We're going to be presenting 2 speakers and a panel discussion. Our first speaker is actually the backbone of this whole initiative, and she is Dr. Margie Gillis, who is a reading expert and CEO of a nonprofit called Literacy How in the US. And she is a proponent of the science of reading. So she will be doing a presentation on that topic, followed by Tamu Lucero, who is the superintendent of Stanford Public Schools in Connecticut. And she has actually applied the science of reading principles in her school district and seen great success. And following those two, we will have a panel discussion, and the panelists will include our 2 speakers, as well as Kim Manderson, who is the acting reading officer for the Department of Education, Mr. Martin James, who represents Innovation Unit, and you may have heard of that. That is the company that is helping the Department of Education with the school redesign effort. And our last but not least, we will have a parent, Latoya Pierman, who will represent the parental perspective of what it means to help our children to learn how to read and the importance and the issues that we're facing here in Bermuda. So this is an all-important topic, and it is one that everybody can be involved in addressing. I like to make the point that while we do have reading teachers, and I understand there's one in every primary school now, I know that when I was at the Barclay Institute, we had 2 reading teachers. It is important to understand that every teacher, not just the reading teacher, but every teacher bears some responsibility for teaching reading at some level, regardless of whatever discipline you may actually be specializing in, because reading is actually a part of every discipline. And so you have some obligation to make sure that you understand the best way of teaching reading. Parents, guardians, grandparents, all of us who are invested in helping young people learn how to read and to be successful need to understand how we can help them. And so this particular mini conference targets everybody. So I heard Jamel mention mentors, and yes, mentors, guardians, parents, grandparents, teachers, administrators, because administrators do need to know how to organize and how to best support the teachers in the effort to improve literacy. So this is, as I said, it is a very important topic. And you can sign up for the mini conference by going to the college website. That's www.college.bm/literacy. Or you can just go to the landing page on the college website and scroll down, and you will see a frame with children reading, and click on that, and that'll take you to the sign up page as well.
Well, you just answered about 5 or 10 of our questions.
And the interview.
I mean, conversation done, right? But no, I want to definitely.
I don't believe that. I know you always have questions.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I took some notes because I want to make sure, Carla, if you don't mind, because I know you might have had this question, but I want to make sure I heard you right because I can't rewind while we're live. Did you say 60% of students were below grade in reading?
When I heard that statistic, I had the same look on my face that you have now, and I asked the same question. Yes, 60.
And go ahead, Carla. Sorry.
So on a pendant on that question, Google, Word, PlayStation, everything is voice activated these days, right? Do you, in your opinion, and I know you're not a reading expert, but you are at an academic, do you feel that everything being so voice activated has contributed to the decline in literacy rates?
I think that's a very good question. I think there are a lot of factors that contribute to the decline in literacy rates. I think the accessibility to reading material and encouraging our young people to read may have shifted over time. It is true that a lot of us are using things that are voice activated. When we're texting, we use acronyms and abbreviations. So we're not really encouraging making that connection between written symbols and actually reading. So I do think that's one thing. I also think that, in the past, and maybe some in the present, parents would make sure that the children had a certain level of readiness when it came to going to primary school. Most children, and maybe you both, already knew the letters, knew the numbers. They could read a certain amount before they got into the classroom. These days, parents may be juggling 2 and 3 jobs. They may not have the resources. They may not have the time, whatever the case might be, or they may not know how to read that well themselves. And so it's different. People may not be able to provide that level of support to their children to help them to become literate. And as a result, become even more dependent on the school system to make things happen. And really, that should be a collaborative effort between home and school. The other thing that happens is in a situation like that, you'll have children who are at various levels when they come into the classroom. And that unevenness makes for a difficult situation for most teachers because they want everybody to learn, but it's difficult if you are trying to teach children. You have, I don't know, even 10 students in a class, and you have different starting points for each one. So I do think that those are some of the factors that have contributed to a decline in reading.
Okay, so I'm
This
sorry.
is a rarity.
No, yeah. I'm never lost for words. Just back on. I don't want to get hooked on it, but I want people to understand what you're saying here, and I want people to understand the importance of the conference that's being put on, because 60% below grade, and when we say 60% below grade, how many grades below, on average, are the students who are behind on their reading?
I can't give you the exact statistics on that. What was shared with me is that 2 or 3 grade level. So that may mean that students are not necessarily totally illiterate, but they're at a deficit if they are reading below the grade level that they're supposed to be in. And unfortunately, our school system, like school systems everywhere, are not really equipped to, and it's not necessarily a good thing, to just hold students back. So you have a child who's reading below grade level, they'll get to a certain point and they continue to move them on. So what happened? The problem is moved on. And that's how we could get to middle school and find that you still have 50% of students, and that's just one school that I heard that about, where children are still reading below grade level. But I also know from my time at the Barclay Institute that we had lots of children who were reading below grade level.
That's social promotion or lack thereof thing, but that's a whole nother conversation for another show. But that's something that personally I've had to deal with, and I was very frustrated because I'm a proponent of it, and I think that it does the child no justice if they're promoted and they're not ready. But as a parent, sometimes it can be difficult to have a child to pick up a book. Especially I've found with boys, they don't like to read. What are some strategies, like briefly, a couple of strategies that parents can implement in order to make reading more enticing for their children?
Well, one thing that's very important is modeling the behavior you want to see. So, you know how it is in our households. Our kids see us dancing around, so they dance around, right? You've seen, I'm sure, lots of videos of cute little babies showing that they have rhythm and that kind of thing. Well, that hasn't come out of thin air. That's because they've observed these kinds of behaviors. Likewise, our children need to see us reading, whether it doesn't have to be the biggest book in the world, but the newspaper, reading instructions, showing that reading has value in your life, right? We have to convey to students that reading is something that you have to learn how to do. That's number one. In terms of helping children to be engaged in reading, I think it's really important to zone in on what the students' interests are. And I've heard lots of stories of, engaging boys by getting them interested in, reading the paper, looking at the sports figures. If they're interested in, football or soccer, getting them interested by connecting them with, oh, okay, here's somebody that you like to follow. Here's your guy in soccer. Look at what he's done this week. But these kinds of things can entice them to at least start and then connect them to reading more things. Sometimes it's comic books. Sometimes it's information about the latest game that's coming out on PlayStation or whatever the latest gadget is. But using all of those things, you have to meet them where they are and help them to see what the options are to increase their reading.
It's interesting you say that because I was never the best reader, and I remember one time my mother must have snuck to Sunday school. I was at Sunday school, and she heard me read, and we had to take turns reading, and she told me about it afterwards. And I didn't understand it at the time, and so what she did was exactly what you just spoke of. She knew I liked sports, so I got books. Like, I'll have to ask her what they were called, but it was a bunch of books, and each book reflected stuff I was interested in, and that's how I learned different sports strategies, and like in football and cricket and even sports that weren't played in Bermuda. I learned by reading books how to understand positions and what they were. American football was one that wasn't Bermudian, and I learned it from reading books. So that is a good strategy that I definitely would second. What you lack in skill, you can gain in education, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add to that I think that point of tapping into what children are interested in and their natural, the kinds of skills that they have, whether it is even with dance, getting materials that will help them to read about that particular area will really help to find that entrance level. And I know that from firsthand experience. That happened in my own household. So, my child was interested in music, and I used to read to her all the time. And she loved to be read too, but she wasn't necessarily all that interested in reading herself. But we tapped into something that she was interested in, and there was no looking back. In fact, she had her whole second grade class reading, I don't know, I think it was The Phantom of the Opera. But, tapping into what children are interested in is one of those keys.
Now, Dr. Tweed, I know that students are different types of learners.
Yeah.
But do you think that, for example, recently, I believe it was Google announced that degrees were no longer a prerequisite in order to work for them, and that they would develop their own program. And then on the other vein, you hear people say you need a degree or higher education, et cetera. So do you think by companies making moves like that, that it takes away from the need to have a high literacy rate, for example?
I think that's a dangerous path, particularly when you talk about people for whom the opportunities for the highest level of education have not been there for a very long time, or are relatively recent. I think that, of course, people should aspire to the highest education attainment that they can shoot for. I do think also that we have to be careful in terms of even with Google, creating a situation where you're looking for skills for right now, and they will fill certain jobs, probably maybe entry-level jobs, but then 3 or 4 years down the line, you need higher level skills. And the people that you've hired may not have those skills because they stopped the education process because you said that they didn't need more. We see that right now here. We have some people who, for example, may have taken entry-level jobs in, say, insurance, because they were able to get in and take a few courses and have a job, which is very important. But when the rubber meets the road and you have a context like now where we have an economic downturn, the people who are going to be made redundant are not the ones with the college degree. So I think we have to be very careful about selling ourselves short in that way. And we have to have some vision in terms of what is needed right now, yes, in terms of making sure that people are employed, but we also have to be looking 5 and 10 years down the road in terms of what might we need. And we need to have people who are trained and in position to be able to be the ones who are the entrepreneurs, the ones who are the developers, or the ones who are creating systems, not just at this entry level where you're just doing the best you can in that entry level position.
Want to get to the comments, but I think we have to keep in context when talking about Google. When you're dealing with Silicon Valley, they're specifically talking about no degrees. They always, and it's not us they're talking about. We have to keep it in context. They're talking about the individuals who didn't get degrees that probably went to the Harvards, like or Mark Zuckerberg. That's what they're referring to. They're not referring to
everyday people
who just finish high school and don't go to college. That they're referring to people who had the ability and may have ran into some trouble in college, but they're, from an academic standpoint, they're Ivy League intellect, and yeah,
they're not referring to people who are not literate.
Right.
Right.
If I said that, Dr. Tweed, I was being rude.
No.
They may include in there some people, sometimes you have people who are just gifted in a particular area in computers and mathematics, whatever, who seem to be kind of have a sense of genius in that. But that's not the same thing as referring to people who aren't literate and who haven't been able to, learn how to read. So we really need to keep that in focus.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of you're pretty popular. I mean, we have a lot to go through. So,
if I'm that popular, everybody sign up for the conference.
There you go. Right there you go. Get on this conference. Nikki Michelle Carla.
What is happening here in Bermuda that is contradictory to schools in, say, Denmark, Germany, and Finland? Their children don't go formal schooling until 7 years old, and they do fine academically. Why are our kids in school from 4 years old and still floundering?
That's a good question. I'm not totally familiar with how Denmark. I know Denmark really focuses on socialization and play in the early years. And maybe for them, there is more of a sense of readiness when children actually enter the school system. But the structure of the school system, I think, is different from ours.
Mm-hmm. We have a couple more, well, a lot more. Dr. Maria Siemens says, if reading does not begin with the voice of the parent consistently reading, the child would be at a disadvantage. And again, I think that's why when I saw the press release, I was encouraged to see. I actually reached out to my sister, and my sister said, send her the information. My niece is 7, and I just remember when we would try to get her to read. She gave us a struggle, boy. It was tough. It was tough.
Parents and guardians are really important as in helping our children learn how to read, but I don't want to put them in a place where they are blamed or feel guilty because it hasn't happened in their household, because we have to understand that this is a slightly different world and slightly different society. And so we have to make sure that we're providing support to those parents who may not be in a place themselves to support their children the way, I would or Dr. Seaman would, we just have to make sure that the supports are in place, because at the end of the day, the reading success of the child is what is important.
Indeed. Emily Dill says, it appears that there's a correlation between the introduction of social promotion in our system and the decline in literacy rates. Our students are being pushed through the system with no mastery in multiple areas. Kathy Brumby asked the question, why are children advanced if they cannot read? Are teachers held responsible? I think you spoke on that earlier.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, I don't think it's so much about the accountability on the part of the teachers. It's about social promotion and making sure that the children can continue to move ahead, because the system isn't really designed to keep children back. And there are a ton of issues around that whole issue, that concept of children staying back.
Lisa James says, could this be due to undiagnosed tested dyslexia? Could it be they're not comprehending what is being read?
That may be true for some. Assessment is very, very important. We need to make sure that we're assessing for learning disabilities. And we also have to make sure that we're assessing to truly understand the level and, any issues that the students have with reading. But I do not think that 60% of our children in schools have learning disabilities.
Okay. We have a lot. Kathy Brumby says, I gave my child a Kindle. Now she loves reading. John de Butterfield, comic books I loved as a child. My mom bought me many. Dr. Maria Seaman, if introduced to it young, they love the adventure of reading. So the younger you get them involved, it's like sport. The younger you get people involved in something, the more they'll be interested, the better they'll be at it. Sheldon Eugene Fox says, accountability for learning isn't the sole responsibility of the educator. Can we put this on repeat a couple times? All partners need to actively engage in reading and learning. Students, parents, and community. And that's why I said earlier, not just educators, but parents and mentors. And when I say mentors, I'm like, there's a lot of people out there coaching and doing different things like that. What you can do is just create something for the players to take home and go read based on what you did in practice that day. But there's a lot of different opportunities to improve reading throughout the community. Daniel J. Wood says, tell your kids they will eventually have to stand in front of their class one day and read sports section and books on their fave athletes. Yeah. That's helpful. Nikki Michelle says, sorry, I can't see you, Dr. Tweed. Dependency on the school system is unrealistic. No, dependency on this current system that is clearly not serving the wider population is. There are other populations that are fully dependent on their school systems that don't have our dismal numbers as a result. If the system doesn't work, we need to demand that it is dismantled and rebuilt. What's your take on that?
I would say that I wouldn't say that we need to dismantle it. I think we need to identify what the issues are and correct those issues. I think that we have a lot of teachers who, over the years, we've had excellent teachers in our school system, and we still do. I think that we've had a lot of changes in terms of in culture and society, and the kind of student who comes in the classroom and the needs that they have and bring with them. I don't know that teachers have been provided with all of the professional development they need to keep up with those changes. And I don't know that it is the responsibility of teachers to actually really address all of those changes, because in some cases, there are needs for, assessment, social work, psychological counseling. Sometimes people just need food. I mean, there are all kinds of issues that are brought into the classroom today that we may not have seen in the past. And they all impact the child's ability to sit there and learn. And it's not all about the educator. But as I said, there are issues in our system that need to be addressed. I'm hopeful that the school redesign project will address many of those issues. But again, I wouldn't say dismantle and rebuild. I would say take a good look at it and identify where the gaps are, where the challenges are. If we had a strong assessment system in our school system, we will be constantly looking at what works and what doesn't. And we don't wait until you have this kind of statistic that is so frightening, but you make changes along the way in order to improve what's happening in school.
I want to share this because I never liked to read like books. I would read things that interested in me. But it was she was a client, you know, a friend, mentor, Tamara Richardson. She actually, as I was in graduate school, right? She actually one day asked for my address and she sent me books. That's how I actually began reading. No lie, like regularly. And it was The Alchemist was the first book that I read. And I say that because this is a person that she probably was like, it's not fulfilling his potential. Like, read some books, become a better reader. And I say that because I think she noticed on social media. I think you mentioned earlier people using acronyms when texting and so on. I was that person. I would not spell out the whole word, and it becomes when you start to do it so often, you begin to talk like it, speak like, and it impacts the way you read. And I didn't realize that, but she was the person that brought that to my attention, and I was like, she's onto something. Yeah, she was onto something. Let's go through one more question before we let you go, Dr. Tweed. Charles H. Jeffers, too. What role can sports clubs play in combating this crisis? There are many programs in the U.S. that formally connect sports and education.
We have programs that do that here. I don't know now with COVID-19, I don't know what they've been able to do, in the current setting, but I would have to give a shout out to Beyond Rugby because Beyond Rugby has really helped a lot of young people to, have a context where they're getting to play sports that they love to play and also make sure that they're getting their homework done and that they're succeeding in school. That kind of program is vital. We also have to make sure that within our sports clubs that we're taking responsibility to make sure that students are doing that work and that they are not using their participation in the sports and the games as an excuse not to do things. So I think that, we do have an obligation there with our sports clubs to make sure that there is a link with education.
Dr. Tweed, before you go, please just share with us one more time the information, how to sign up, when it's taking place, and so we can make sure that immediately following your departure today, people sign up, understanding the importance of this initiative.
Yes. Okay. The mini conference will take place on Saturday, November 28th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can sign up at the Bermuda College website at www.college.bm/literacy, or you can just go to www.college.bm to the landing page and scroll down and you'll see a picture of children. You'll see that's the literacy. That'll take you to the literacy sign up page as well. If you have questions for me, you can email me at a dedicated email address for this conference, and that would be literacy@college.bm. If you're participating in the conference and you have questions that you would like for our panelists to address, please send me those questions, if you can, to literacy@college.bm so we can make sure that those questions are asked. I do hope that Bermuda, that you will sign up for this conference. I would like to see the sign up page just blown up after this, after the daily hour this morning. This is a really important issue. It will take all of us. They say it takes a village. Well, it takes an island. We need to make sure that we are getting our children on the right path so that they learn to read and then can read to learn.
Dr. Phyllis Curtis-Tweed, Vice President up there at Bermuda College, thanks again for another important conversation. And as we head into what's known as holiday season with Black Friday sales, as someone just texted me, visit the book aisle, not the toy aisle. Thanks again to you. The door's open for the next time.
Thank you. I'll be back. Thank
All
you,
right.
Mel. Thanks, Carla. Thank you, listening
Nice
audience.
to see you. Take care.
Talk to you soon.
Take care, everyone.
All righty. Yes, it is virtual, Ms. Emily Gildeal. It is a virtual conference. How do you, Carla? You're big on English language, reading. You've been very outspoken about your own children. How does what was shared during that conversation make you feel?
It just again solidifies. I think that they should test children earlier, because I had a child with dyslexia that just kept getting pushed through, and which leads to my second part, which is social promotion needs to stop. It
Yeah.
doesn't benefit. You say in one sense about the socialization of the child, but if the child finishes school and still can't read, who's benefiting at that end?
Yeah. I say this and I mean it. We continue to have very important conversations on this show. I think this today, I really hope people share this conversation. This is extremely important because, as was said during this episode, all of us play a role in this. We do not want an illiterate society. That is going to be costly. And I hope we understand that. It's time for the Daily Play. Carla, do you know what today is?
It's the day I get to sing.
I don't know what that was, but scary. That was scary. So here it is, folks. Carla's going to need your help. This is a song that I don't expect her to get right off, but if she does, she gets a big, not a hug, a virtual hug. I'll give a virtual hug.
Ooh.
All right, here we go. Quote: children laughing, people passing, meeting smile after smile.
I know this song. What's going on, Marvin Gaye?
Help her out, folks. I'll give you a hint. It's a Christmas song. Children laughing.
Let It Snow, Let It Snow. That song, right?
Oh.
See, I don't like Christmas carols. I'm the worst unmotherly mother in that sense.
Oh, look at that. Dr. T got it. Look, everybody's giving it to you now.
Oh, silver bells.
Oh, she knows it.
Christmas time in the city, right?
Yeah, see, everybody got it. Look at that. Look at that. So now you know for the next few weeks, the songs you'll be guessing will be Christmas carols.
Ugh.
So you better get your game up. Go practice Jingle Bells and Rudolph and all those songs, all right?
La 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 la.
Oh, please. My goodness, you all. My ears. You're hurting the ears. You're hurting them. I call it, what you got for inspiration? Because after that little dole rate, whatever you tried. Look, Zena says we were rooting for you. Look at that. You had fair. You let them down.
Listen, you all, there are two things that I am so unmotherly. I don't like the playground and I don't like Christmas carols. So I'm ridiculous.
Look at them, your fans. What you got for us?
Ambition is the path to success. Persistence is the vehicle you arrive in. Bill Bradley.
All right. What is ambition without persisting and keep going. Make it happen, folks. You got to fight. It's not going to come easy. Any final words on today's episode, Carla?
Seriously, and social promotion. And we need to fix this system. Someone said earlier, they're paying private fees, but public taxes. Let's make the public school system great.
Yeah.
Our children need it.
I agree with you. But I'm going to take a different approach away from education. I think this is a community issue. I think that anyone who works around children or nephews, nieces, godchildren, when you go on those Black Friday sales or think about getting gifts, if you're not taking a year off like me, I honestly think find what the children are interested in and get them books. Even if you get them the favorite toy, get them a book to go along with it. Even the instruction book could be helpful. Make the parents tell them, look, make them read the instructions and learn how to put it together. Tomorrow, we'll have our good friend, our financial contributor, Teresa Stewart, on. We're going to talk about 5 to 10 things you can do this Black Friday with your savings. All right. So on that note, we appreciate you. We love you. And we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back again to do this with you tomorrow. Carla Zul, Jamel Hartman, we're out.